Welcome to another episode of the Pierce Brothers. I'm Jake, and today we're going to be taking a look at Pedersoli 1841 Mississippi rifle. Before we get started with that, though, be sure to like, comment, share, subscribe our videos, and any ways you guys can support us, it's greatly appreciated. Before we start talking about the modern replica made by Pedersoli, let's talk about the history of the 1841. So, in the late 1830s, the U.S. military, for the most part, was still using flintlock guns, mostly 1816 Springfield muskets, smoothbore, 69 caliber. Like I said, they were flintlocks. In 1840, they had adopted a new musket, and a lot of those were built as percussion lock guns, because the U.S. military realized the percussion lock was the way of the future. But the 1840 Springfield was originally designed as a flintlock, but again, a lot of them were produced as percussion guns. In 1842, they adopted, so just a couple years after, they adopted a new Springfield musket, the 1842 model. Again, 69 caliber, but that was built from the ground up as a percussion arm, and that was meant to be kind of the standard issue rifle. I shouldn't say rifle, smoothbore musket of the average infantryman. So muskets, generally from that time frame, had a longer barrel. I think 39 to 42 inches, kind of dependent on the model and the country and whatnot. But also during that time frame, the U.S. military realized that the rifle was something that was quite desirable. And in 1841, they adopted what became known as the Mississippi rifle, and that we'll talk about where it's got its name in a minute. Originally, it was just the 1841 rifle. They were a 54 caliber rifle that fired and was loaded with a patch round ball. So right off the bat, it was an instant success. They had a 33-inch barrel, and this is another important designation. So generally, when the U.S. military is talking about a rifle, they're talking about a gun with a 33-inch barrel. Later, starting in 1855, they adopted the rifle musket, the 1855 Springfield. Those had a longer 39-inch barrel or 40, but that's what the military called a rifled musket. Even though it had rifling, the rifle length guns generally were this length, 33-inch barrel. So when this was adopted, it was meant for kind of a more specialized units. Some cavalry used it during the Mexican-American War, and a regiment commanded by volunteer Mississippians, commanded by Jefferson Davis, used this to quite devastating effect during the Mexican-American War. And that's where it got its nickname, was the Mississippi Rifle, because of the regiment of Mississippians using it during the war. So let's see. So we talked about the 54 caliber version. The early versions were just like this. So they had just a notched rear sight, very simple rear sight, and no provision for bayonet. The ramrods had the brass tip there. Of course, the Mississippi rifle had brass furniture, so brass patch box, butt plate, trigger guard, barrel bands. A lot of people consider the 1841 to be the most handsome rifle ever adopted by the U.S. military. I tend to agree. It's just a very well balanced rifle, very pleasing on the eyes. So let's see. So in the 1850s, the U.S. military, 1855 to be exact, adopted the 55 caliber mini bullet as its standard issue cartridge, and they're trying to standardize everything on that caliber. These, of course, were originally a 54. But starting in 1855 until its end of production in 1861, these were made in 58 caliber. So they could fire the new mini bullet. And a lot of the older 58 caliber rifles were converted to the 58 caliber. And so during the American Civil War, these were used extensively by both sides of the conflict. Especially in the North, they were converted to 58 caliber, so guns that were in the arsenals that hadn't been converted yet, there's a big rebuild program, so a lot of them were rebuilt to 58 caliber, and when they did that, generally they updated the rear sights, so they were an adjustable sight. Added bayonets, so a lot of them kind of been depending on who did the conversion work. Sometimes they'd turn the barrel down, so they'd accept a socket bayonet. Sometimes they would weld on a bar here to take the sword type bayonets. Colt had an alteration that they did. It was almost like a, think of like a scope ring. So you had two halves that would screw together on each side, but also had a provision for a bayonet there. And so yeah, they're used by the North, kind of starting to get phased out in 1863. There was the 1861 Springfield was being used in big enough numbers that a lot of the older stuff was getting kind of phased out. The South used these through the end of the war, both in 58 and 54 caliber, depending on what was in their arsenals. They didn't really have a big rebuild program like the North did. So if they had a 54 caliber rifle in service, it generally stayed a 54 caliber rifle. Another interesting aspect, these were used heavily in the 1840s, 50s, and 60s by immigrants heading west. So pioneers, farmers, explorers, scouts, pretty much anybody and everybody heading west. These were used very extensively, considered one of the best arms of its day. So very sturdily built, good locks. They handle very well. They handle almost like a shotgun, point very naturally. But the government actually authorized the sale of military arms to immigrants heading west. And so there's lots of reports of these rifles being used to fend off Indians, hunting buffalo, all types of stuff. So that's a, interesting aspect. Let's see. I know I'm forgetting something. I'll remember in a minute. So the modern replica here we're shooting today, made by Pedersoli. They make these in both 54 and 58 caliber rifles. I mostly shoot patch round ball loads. I probably would prefer a 54 caliber rifle, but their 54s have a 1 in 48 inch twist. And those can shoot patch round ball fairly well, but generally you want a slower twist rate. Their 58 version has a 1 in 72 inch twist, and this gun does shoot a patch round ball extremely well. So that's the version I went with. 58 caliber. I know it's not the historically correct ammunition. Probably I should be using a mini bullet of some sort, but I don't really care about the historical accuracy with ammunition. And in this regard, I'm generally very historically accurate minded, but just made sense for me in this regard. So Pedersoli, they do use real walnut wood. That's a big plus. Their locks are generally very, very well made, well tuned. No issues there. They do add cartouches and stuff and proof marks on there to kind of, give you the look and feel. They have a Harper's Ferry 1847 stamped on the lock plate and the U.S. Eagle. That's another aspect. Yeah, something else I forgot. So these were made not only by Harper's Ferry, some were made by Remington, but there's a whole slew of subcontractors and contractors that built these guns for the government, and they're very, very popular, very, very well received rifle. So yeah, of course they do have a patch box. I don't have patches in here. Actually just got some spare nipples and stuff, so handy little contraption though. These shots at this distance, this is like 35 yards, incredibly easy. This gun shoots directly to the sights, and especially with the patch round ball. Porter was supposed to be here today, and we were going to have his longer silhouette, and we were going to set it up at longer range, but he never ended up showing up. So we're shooting small targets today at closer range.
All right, Jake's wants to shoot this water bottle. So we're going to set it up here on the road at about 100 yards. See if he can hit it. Just one of these little Costco water bottles.
Are you sure?
Yeah, because when we had the silhouette over there, Dad, it was 80 yards. When Port and I did our competition and we shot from like right here.
Yeah, it looks further than that to me too.
We'll range it. All right, we got the rangefinder here. 85. All right, 85 yards here. Miss.
Just a little off to the right.
Yep.
Okay, ready?
Yep. You blew it up. Good
Destroyed that.
Yeah.
I don't know if you guys could see that, but that water bottle just completely exploded.
Yeah.
Well, let's shoot it a few more times. This is too much fun. Ready? It really hits those steels hard. You guys need to get into muzzleloading. This is some of the funnest shooting I've ever done. Okay, guys. So, thanks for watching this video. If you guys haven't gotten into muzzleloading, you definitely should. It's, like I said, some of the funnest shooting I've ever done. And thanks for watching this video, and we'll see you guys next time.